For this example, we're going to be looking at multiplying decimals. The first thing that we have to remember when we multiply is our rules for signed numbers. If you multiply two numbers with the same signs, such as a positive times a positive, or a negative times a negative, that will result in a product that is positive. And when we multiply with different signs, so if we had a negative times a positive, or a positive times a negative, that results in a negative product. So when we begin to multiply, we want to take a look at our signs first. And in this problem here, we had 6 and 72 hundredths times a negative 4 tenths. We have a positive times a negative, which means that our answer is going to be negative because we were multiplying two numbers with different signs. To multiply with decimals, we're going to focus on multiplying without any of the decimal places to start. So whichever way you prefer to multiply, take the decimal places away and multiply. I'm going to set this up vertically. So I'm going to set it up as 672 times 4. And when we multiply here, 4 times 2 gives us 8. 4 times 7 gives us 28. And we carry the 2. 4 times 6 gives us 24, plus 2 gives us 26. So now we have 2,688, but we have to go back to our original problem and see how many decimal places were removed. In 6 and 72 hundredths, we had the hundredths place, so that is 2 decimal places. And in the negative 4 tenths, we had 1 decimal place. So we need to put in 3 decimal places for this problem, which would bring us between the 2 and the 6. So this gives us an answer of a negative 2 and 688 thousandths. Our next example is a negative 51 times a negative 8 and 5 tenths. We are multiplying a negative by a negative. Because we are multiplying a negative by a negative, our result will be a positive. I'm going to multiply again without the signs. So we have 51 times 85. And I'll just keep it set up vertically here. 5 times 1 is 5. 5 times 5 gives us 25. We're going to add a 0 to hold place because we're going to the tens place now. 8 times 1 gives us 8. And then 8 times 5 gives us 40. We multiplied all parts, so now we add. 5 and 0 is 5. 8 and 5 is 13. We carry the 1. 2 and 1 is 3. And we have a 4 there. Now we want to look back and see what our original problem was. And we had 1 decimal place in the original problem, so we're going to add 1 back into here. And this would leave us with 433 and 5 tenths. We could check our answer with an estimate. So I'm going to make a quick estimate here. I'm just going to round this to a negative 50, and I'll round this to a negative 9. So if we were to multiply 9 times 50, we could do 9 times 5 is 45, and then we had a 0 there, so we would add a 0. So a quick estimate shows that our answer should be around 450, and if we notice here, 433.5 or 433 and 5 tenths is pretty close to 450. So our estimate shows that our actual answer is close to where it should be, and our actual answer is 433 and 5 tenths. The last example that we're going to look at here with multiplying decimals is finding a percent of a number. And in this problem here, we're trying to find out what 6% of 530 is. It's important to note what a percent actually is. So if you take a look at the math note here, A percent is written with this symbol, and it means out of 100. Percent means out of 100. So when we're writing 6%, it's 6 over 100, which is equal to 0.06. So if we were looking at a decimal, or if we were putting 6% into decimal form, what happens here is it means 6 out of 100. So we set that up as 6 out of 100. And if we want to write that as a decimal, it becomes 6 hundredths, so 0.06. Another way of changing a percent into a decimal with a little cheat here, if we have 6%, there's no decimal point in this problem. So whenever you don't see a decimal point, it's at the end of the number. So technically, the decimal point is right here, but we want to change this into a decimal. So dividing by 100 is the same as moving our decimal place 2 places to the left. So I can move it 2 places to the left, and that is how it also becomes 0.06. So now that we know that 6% is equal to 6 hundredths, we want to figure out what 6% of 530 is. And the word of in math means to multiply. So if we're looking for 6% of 530, we're actually just multiplying 6 hundredths times 530. And we would follow, again, our same multiplication process. I'm going to set it up vertically here. So 530 times 6. We remove the decimals. That's a 0. 6 and 3 gives us 18. We carry the 1. 6 times 5 gives us 30. That is 31. So we are left with 3,180. But again, there were 2 decimal places in our original problem. So 6% of 530 is equal to 31 8/10. We could make an estimate here by just rounding. Let's check what 10% of 530 is. So 10% of 530 would end up giving us 53. So if we were looking at 10% of 530, what we're doing there is we're multiplying it by 0.1. So it's 0.1 times 530, which would leave us with 53. So if 10% was 53, 6% has to be less than 53, and we did get a number less than 53. So that's how we could make an estimate to check and make sure that we're in the right area of what our answer should be.